on me when I win this war. I've got a church and a family, and they're gonna
Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us once again here at Defining the Dash. Today we are continuing on with our series, I guess you would say, on stewardship and being a good steward. We talked about finances, we talked about budget and saving money, and so today we want to get back into a few more items that we feel like it's important for us to be good stewards of. And so, Brother Mark, when we say we're to be stewards of Christ and we are to be good stewards of what He has given us. Now, I know growing up you would hear of an airline steward and a stewardess, you know. But what does it mean to be a good steward? What does that mean?
So according to Webster Dictionary, I think it's 1828 dictionary, defines steward as it says that they were then originally a chamberlain or a butler. And so what a steward was, the first definition of a steward was a man that was employed in great families to manage domestic concerns, superintend the other servants, collect the rents or income, keep the accounts, etc. And so it looks like a steward was someone that had a certain degree of responsibility in their job, if you will, or in their career, or in their family affairs, to oversee different things, such as rents or income or keep the accounts. And the Bible talks about stewardship in 1 Corinthians about keeping accounts. It says that it is required in stewards that a man be found faithful. A man be found faithful in various accounts is kind of what that's pointing towards. And so faithful in that line of work, keeping the accounts.
Yes. And so, some of those things like you're talking about would, of course, be in their finances. Your income is something that is a gift from God.
Right.
And, of course, if you got an income, then obviously you have a job or something of that. So,
right.
So we can tie those together as our job or our income would be a gift from God or something that God gives that responsibility to us to take that and to care for it.
Right.
We are to be a good steward of that. When God created, made creation, created the world and created man, Adam was to be over the garden and to take care of that garden.
Right.
And so, we would be here. I feel like it is our responsibility to take care of our homes.
Well, sure.
Our land. I know man can't necessarily, one man especially can't take care of the whole earth. But, I think, as the Boy Scouts say, leave no trace. We don't need to go around trashing it up.
Right.
And destroying it just because.
Right.
I think God gives us the wisdom to know what to do and not to do in that regard. And we need to take care of what He has given us. And what else you got to add on that, brother?
Well, you was talking about a few different things there, even just outside of money. And one of the definitions is that the steward was one that managed domestic concerns.
Oh, yeah.
And so domestic concerns, what domestic means is things that belong to a house or a home.
Yes.
Pertaining to a residence, to a family, domestic duties, affairs, happiness, worship. And so it's got more to do than just money. It's got to do what you're just talking about there. Is actually the first definition is managing. The steward manages domestic concerns.
Absolutely. And that if we can manage to be good stewards of our home, then we would be doing good.
Sure.
Because that's not just talking about the care of your house.
Like keeping the grass cut.
Or keeping the vinyl siding washed down, or and but that's talking about the affairs of that home, the happiness of that home, the godliness in that home, the raising your children right. Children are a gift from God. They are something that He entrusts to us to raise. They were His first.
Right.
He gave them to us, but for a while, and then they are to go back.
Right.
And so it's a responsibility on us to raise them right to where they can go back to Him. And so that is a huge responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And so stewardship is not for the weak.
Sure.
If you really think about it.
It's interesting that the Bible says that it is required in stewards that a man be found faithful. And so, it's not talking about, I need to be careful here. A man, really, let's just go back to the word, that a man be found faithful. It's got more
I
to
got quiet because I was waiting to see how far over the waterfall you went, bro.
It's got more to do with chromosomes. You know what I mean? That a man be found faithful. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No animals.
That's
no
right.
animals.
I'll teach Sunday school class on that about being a man being found faithful. Anyway, go ahead.
Sometimes I'm going to sit closer to the door of your Sunday school class.
Okay.
Sometimes. But
I noticed all the boys sit close to the door, man. They're ready to get out of there as soon as they can.
At least they're on the inside of the door, not the outside.
Good point. Good point.
But yes, we are to be good stewards of whatever God has given us. Now, I never did like to loan something to somebody or give them a gift that I made myself or that I had used my money to get, and take the time and the effort to give this to someone that I thought would really like it or really needed it, and then they either shrug it off, throw it away, or mistreat it.
Mm-hmm.
That would always really bother me. So I wonder sometimes if we could really think, okay, if God sees how I'm doing with my finances, if God sees how I'm managing my home, how I'm doing, my home, He gave me these things. If He sees how I'm raising my kids,
right,
is that found pleasing in His sight? Would He be pleased with that? Or would He be frustrated like I am if I give somebody something and they, right in my face, just throw it to the side,
right.
And so, He gave those to us. It was our responsibility to take care of them. So I think if we started looking at things in a little bit closer way of how God would see them, then I think it would change the way we treated these things.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so you're talking about, things that God's given us. And I love definitions, Brother Chad.
Oh yeah.
I like to know what I'm talking about.
I
don't do that very often. Obviously, that's my wife. But belonging to the house, I can't get away from this term domestic. Talking about stewardship, belonging to the house, and down here Webster talks about domestic life, so home life. Mm-hmm. Being stewards of home life, being responsible for your home life.
Right.
A lot of times, homes are a wreck. Home lives are a wreck because someone wasn't a faithful steward.
Yes.
To their home life.
A lot of homes that are raised without fathers.
Yeah.
That father was not a faithful steward.
Yeah. A lot of marriages. Really, I'm not trying to beat anybody up by any means. I'm trying to encourage us,
right.
And maybe point us in the right direction. A lot of marriages are on the rocks. Maybe even today, maybe even some of our listeners, because how easy is it to become less than a faithful steward of that home, that marriage life?
Sure. Yeah.
domestic duties. Talking about being faithful with domestic duties, home duties.
Right.
I probably can't let my grass get too high without Jen mowing it.
Right.
So I try not to do that. But she's a better mower than I am, really. Truth be told. But domestic duties, domestic affairs. Also, what I thought was interesting about this is something here that's got to do with stewardship. It addresses domestic contentions. Domestic meaning belong to the house. It addresses home contentions. Now, usually when we think about home life,
Right.
one of the things we don't think about in the all-American family, the house sits on the hill, you got the white picket fence, you got the apple tree in the front yard, you got the little puppy dog running around, all that cool stuff that I don't have. But, but anyway, I got an apple tree. But anyway, little baby miniature apple tree I'm trying to grow. But a lot of times we don't think about the contentions part.
Right.
We think about happiness, but really, if you get two people in a room for too long, sometimes maybe more than 5 minutes, there are two different individuals, and so you're going to see things different. You're going to have some contention.
Tribute to COVID again.
You've got to be faithful to stand your side in your contention. No, I'm just kidding. No, you got to be faithful to address those contentions and address it appropriately. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But a couple more things I'll add on. Let you go on. But another thing is domestic happiness, family happiness, and man, what a difference a day makes when you've got kids running around and they are happy.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? When you see the smile on their face and they're just happy. And I tell you, some of you parents out there, we just came through Christmas. And you might be all, bothered that you just bought the kids a big old Xbox machine or, spent a lot of money on a Christmas gift and they played with it for 2 or 3 days and they just ain't happy anymore. I tell you what you do. You go to the Walmarts. You go to the back of the Walmarts and you say, or the dollar store, and say, do you have a big cardboard box?
Those boxes.
Those boxes will make your kids happy again.
But I will tell you one thing we did this that you just made me think of. Christmas this year, one of the gifts that we got one of my, I think actually it was my youngest son, was a little singing machine. It had 2 microphones with it.
Mm-hmm.
And we was like, well, him and maybe one of my daughters there, I was like, would like that. Well, I can't remember if it was Christmas night after they opened gifts or if it was the next day. I had to have some, procedures done, medical procedures there the day after Christmas, so I didn't get to spend time with a lot of my family during Christmas because, visiting loved ones, and I couldn't be around anybody that had been sick or anything like that. So there was a couple of days at Christmas I was kind of by myself. And so that night then when they got home, I had all 4 of my kids home. And before we knew it, we got to hearing all 4 of them in there singing together with that singing machine.
Oh, that's awesome.
And they were just laughing and giggling and having a time, and it was like the most awesome music that you could hear.
So it's like music to your ears.
Yeah, it was a gift.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was, and I was like, of all the gifts that we got them for Christmas.
Yeah.
That was not the one I expected them all to flock to, but it was just, especially after being alone on Christmas and stuff, it was like, it was me and my wife, we would just look at each other and smile and go, listen at that, hearing the laughter of those kids, man, it was a Christmas gift in itself.
That's awesome, man.
It was awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then the last little thing here that Webster has for us in defining domestic as belonging to the house, I think it's interesting that he also mentions domestic worship.
Yes.
Now, I know that's 1828. That's almost 200 years ago, right?
Yeah, but how much more important even is it now?
Domestic worship.
Yes.
Man, I tell you, probably one of the best memories I have of foster son we used to have. Man, he's probably about seven years old, and we was in church, and I don't even know what. I think he even napped on the way to church. He probably wasn't even listening to Odyssey. He was probably out. But we get to church, and it was one of the last services we had there. Man, the music was up there cranking, that kind of thing. Man, I looked over the old guy, man. He's standing up there, he's shaking his leg, you know, going dancing a little, almost like dancing a little jig, man, in the middle of church. I thought, you know what? Little 7-year-old boy, man, you know, maybe that's worship. Yeah. You know what I mean? But talking about family worship and stuff, man, and attending church and that kind of thing. But those all that goes along with stewardship. All those got to do with stewardship, things that belongs to somebody's house.
And let me stretch that word a little bit broader. If we think of another term that we hear domestic with all the time, it's in regards to our nation. When you hear of a domestic terrorist,
sure,
that's a terrorist inside this nation.
Right.
It's not necessarily from across the seas. You know, it's in your home territory.
Right.
And so I think even domestic, we have a responsibility to our country.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm going to venture a little bit farther to say, you know, this year's 2024 is going to be crucial in presidential elections and things of that nature. And we need to be, it is our responsibility to pray and to vote.
Absolutely.
And so I just wanted to stretch that word just a little bit broader there. I've had that on my mind today, and I'm like, how am I going to work that into the podcast tonight? And boom.
There it is.
It fit.
Well, you know, and you're thinking along the same lines as Webster.
Yeah.
Webster says, domestics pertains to a nation considered as a family or to one's own country.
Oh.
Not foreign.
Yes. Go Webster.
Yeah,
Go
absolutely.
Webster.
It's your birthday. 200 years later.
Yeah. I'm 200 years late. But,
happy birthday.
But hey, I'm usually late anyway, so it's okay.
A lot of good men and women died, Brother Chad, so we could have the opportunity to vote.
Absolutely. There's, you know, just for us to have the privileges we have.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will say, well, my vote don't count. No, maybe it won't. Maybe you may not be the deciding vote.
Right.
But maybe your vote will cancel somebody's out.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
You know, and it depends on which political affiliation you are. Your vote might count for two.
That's true.
Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, so, we better be careful.
Back to stewardship.
It is our responsibility to get on to another topic.
Right.
Oh man, we're probably tearing this up. But yes, you know, when I was a child and my parents bought me something, you know, it was always my responsibility to take care of that.
Yeah.
And so I really do believe that's how God looks at it too.
Sure.
I think He says, you know, I gave you a good home. I gave you a home. I gave you a vehicle. I gave you a job. I've provided a roof over your head. I've provided food for your table.
Right.
I've provided an income for you.
Right.
You know, what you do with that, you know, how you care for that, you know, you need to do that as I think it's going to be almost like a sign of worship to Him.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, I'm not saying worship the home or worship the vehicle or worship your job. But if you do each of those the best that you can, then I think that's going to be a sign of worship to Him, a sign of thankfulness to Him.
Well, sure. Well, even if you go back into the book of Genesis, Brother Chad, chapter number 2, one of the first signs of worship in the Bible was right here when the Bible says, and the Lord God took the man and put him into the Garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. One of man's main reasons to be in this world was to glorify God and to do the Lord's will. And one of the first assignments that God gave a man was in the Garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it, was to work and to take care of what God had provided him.
Might have been the first lawn mowing job.
Yeah, it might be. Oh, he better win it. That's all I got to say.
I don't know how he did it, but
yeah, that was one of the first jobs. Yeah. And so it's hard to separate good hard work of taking care of what God has blessed you with from worship. Yes, you can't separate them.
You can't. No.
You can't separate them.
As I mean, when I was talking a while ago about having those medical procedures, the day after Christmas, one of the nurses at the hospital I was talking to, and she said, I can usually tell. When I went in there that day, I mean, God had helped me. I wasn't nervous.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I got in there, the nurse I had, man, she openly talked about God with me. And I got to talk with her about God and how we believed on things. And it was awesome, man. It was great. And she told me, she said, I can usually tell when people come in here if they know him or not.
Oh, yeah?
And that's one of the ways, the reason I brought that up is that's one of the ways that people are going to know if we know him and if we love him,
mm-hmm.
is how we treat the things we're given.
Sure.
How we, carry ourselves, how we, if we seem like somebody that's thankful,
right?
They're going to be able to tell really if we're a Christian or not from those things, because it is a type of worship, I believe.
Sure.
So that's another reason why it is so important to do that.
Yeah. You was talking about taking care of things, and it might just be because I had a long day at work and I'm not thinking about anything else right now other than sleep. No, I'm just kidding. But you was talking about that and talking about taking care of things. And I don't know, this probably wasn't divine inspiration, probably not. But it's something that did come to my mind, was the buggy at the Walmarts.
Mm-hmm.
It's been more than one time this comes to my mind. Come out of the old Walmart. I like to say the Walmarts, because mm-hmm. I'm kind of redneck like that. But, come out of the Walmarts, mm-hmm. and I've got my buggy of stuff.
Sure.
And I load my stuff up, open up the back of the van, put it in the back of the van. What I do when I close the truck of the van tells me a lot about myself and my character. What I do with the buggy.
That's a good point.
He's talking about, taking care of things that we've been given, and nobody gave me the buggy. They just let me use the buggy, what I'm saying? And so I've never asked for a buggy, to take home. But, I feel like maybe I bought enough money to use one, around the yard, pushing around the yard. But, just taking care of things that you got, man. You got this buggy. The Walmarts let you, well, you already paid for it with what you bought probably. But, you got this buggy to use. When you load the stuff in your van, do you take care of the buggy? Are you a good steward of the buggy?
That's a great thought.
That's a great thought. Yeah. I try to be a good steward of the buggy, but, something to think about.
That might be a good title for this episode, Brother Mark.
I like it. Yeah.
Are you a steward of the buggy?
Is the buggy bugging you? Yeah. But that tells a lot about a man's character. It's the domestic concern. It's got to do with stewardship. Mm-hmm. And, if you leave the buggy beside the vehicle where you parked at, then I would look at some things in your life. But if you're willing to walk 50 feet and put the buggy up, that tells me a lot about a man's character.
You immediately got me going back now thinking, what have I been doing with the buggy?
Take that. If I didn't get anybody else out in Radio Land, I got Chad. I'm just kidding.
No, there was a situation the other day, Brother Mark, I have to confess.
Well, you just had surgery. Yeah. You're a little different. You're parking in the handicap spot. We can look over you. Yeah.
And so, yeah. Oh, my. But that is a great thing, and some of these places now, and it frustrated me so bad when it first started happening. But now I'm like, I can see some wisdom in that. Mm-hmm. Is when you had to put the little coin in to the buggy thing to get a buggy out.
Yep.
And because they was locked together.
Uh-huh.
And then the only way you got your quarter back was to bring the buggy back.
Yep.
At the time, I'm like, that is stupid. I'm just going to carry my items,
Yeah.
But then I'm like, that's actually brilliant because they don't have to have people go out all over the parking lot and get the buggies now.
Absolutely. Because everybody's responsible.
Because everybody brings them back because they want their quarterback.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a brilliant. Well, when you said that, I was like, that's a brilliant idea.
That's a good idea. Yeah. But stewardship, Brother Chad, very, very important.
It is.
Very important.
It is. And, that goes to your church as well.
Mm-hmm.
God puts us in a church family. It's His house, but He puts us in that family, and so there are ways that we contribute to the happiness or the contention and the worship that goes on in that house as well.
Sure.
And so, this year, more than ever, let's make it our goal to be faithful to the house of God, to support our church family, and to bring as much unity in the church as we can. The devil is already trying to bring as much division as he can, but let's try to unite the church.
Right.
And I heard of a church the other day that had been having a lot of trouble and stuff, and some. I'm trying to be careful on how I say some of this stuff, but they had a wonderful service the other night, and it was just. They said it was some people there said it was the first time in a long time that they had just felt a happiness and a move of God like they felt that night.
That's awesome.
And I just we need it.
Sure.
And so let's be. I know it seems like a lot saying, okay, now you got to take care of your job, you got to take care of your home, you got to take care of your family, you got to take care of your kids, you got to take care of this, and the list goes on. But our church is super, super important. I mean, that's really even a priority above our home is our church house, our church. Mm-hmm. And when I say our church, I'm not just talking about the building. Naturally, we need to take care of that building and not mistreat that building, and we need to keep it up, and we need to take care of it. But in talking about building your church, helping others to come into the church,
right?
Praying for your church, giving your tithes and offerings, being there when the doors are open, that list goes on. Helping cook and clean and if whatever needs to be done, all those things. We need to take care of it.
Absolutely. He's talking about contentions in churches and such, and I would like to challenge our listeners regarding contention, not to be contentious. Let me clarify that out of the gate.
Yeah.
But my challenge would be, Brother Chad, is to be a peacemaker.
Oh yes,
to be a peacemaker. There's a blessing along with being a peacemaker. According to the Bible, if the Bible's right, and I believe it is. But blessed are the peacemakers. And there's something to be said about a man or a woman that can walk into a room, and how you go into a room, you just get this feel that somebody's about to stab somebody. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe that was just a dream I had. I don't know. But you go into a room and tensions are high, and
we do
somebody's
prison ministry.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. I might just been the prison.
There's been a time or two that we thought that was going to happen.
Oh yeah. So the feeling.
Yeah.
You know the feeling. And some of our listeners might be in for it. I don't know, but you walk into a room and the tensions are high, man. Blood pressure's high, heart rates are high, people's faces are red. But there's something about the man or the woman that walk into that room and just kind of
put it at ease.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just kind of fizzle out the flame. You know what I'm saying? Find some common ground on both sides. Some kind of dad joke.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And just bring people together and dissolve the contention.
Yes.
You're talking about blessing. And really it don't really matter what your denomination is. You know what I'm saying? It don't matter what denomination you are, in a lot of ways, where you're from, that what a blessing it is to just be able to go to church or even a social gathering around a lot of different people from different denominations and just be the guy or the girl in the middle that just kind of brings everybody together and fizzles out some of that kind of unnecessary stuff.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Even denominations aside, like you said, a lot of times there's so much contention even when you're getting together with people of your own church or your own denomination.
Sure.
And so a peacemaker,
yeah,
their value is so great.
Right.
I mean, it really is.
Being a good steward.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Brother Chad, it's been a great discussion. A great discussion about stewardship and the importance of being a stewardship in a few different areas in life where we can be good stewards. We appreciate you listeners for listening in. Appreciate you liking and subscribing and following the podcast. And until next time, keep it real, make it count, and we'll catch you next week.
God bless you.
When I win this war, I've got a church and a family, and they're worth fighting for.